The Washington Post has a great new report out detailing some of the turmoil and, of course, the potential criminal activity taking place behind the scenes at Donald Trump's Truth Social. And the story began by telling us about an incident where one of the co-founders of Truth Social, a man by the name of Andy Latsky, who, along with Will Wilkerson, actually kind of came up with the idea for Truth Social, they were sitting and having a meeting when Latsky got a message from Donald Trump, phone call actually, asking him to go ahead and give up his shares of Truth Social to Trump's wife, Melania. That's right, Donald Trump called the co-founder of Truth Social and said, "Hey, how you doing, bud? Listen, I need you to give up your entire stake in this company and give it to my wife." Shares that were potentially worth millions and millions of dollars at the time, obviously. Definitely not worth that anymore. But Mr. Latsky said, "No, I'm not going to do that. You know, one reason is because if I do that, it's a gift, and then the taxes I'd have to pay on that, like I can't afford it." And Trump told him, "Well, figure it out." Latsky, of course, as far as we know, did not ever hand his shares over to Melania, and so he was promptly removed from the company about 3, 4, 5 months after that phone call took place, and he told Donald Trump no. And we know all of this because Will Wilkerson, the other individual that I mentioned, is cooperating with federal authorities who are investigating Truth Social and Digital World acquisition. And Mr. Wilkerson decided his best course of action, in addition to handing over all the documents, recorded phone calls, and photographs to federal investigators, decided, I'm going to go ahead and give it all to the Washington Post as well. And then this past Thursday, after Donald Trump and the people at Truth Social learned that Mr. Wilkerson had given all this information to the Washington Post and probably to the feds as well, decided to fire him, which, as we all know, probably just creates even more legal problems for him, because I don't think they fired him because he gave it to the Washington Post. I'm pretty sure, I think it's safe to assume at this point, they probably fired him because he gave it to the federal investigators, which, if you do that, then you're firing a whistleblower, which is retaliation, and then you're going to end up in a whole world of legal pain after that. But to me, even though the headlines and a lot of folks have focused on the part of the story where Trump pressured Latsky to give his shares to Melania, yes, it's interesting, but that's not the most interesting part. And it's certainly not the criminal part of this, right? Donald Trump had every right to make that demand. He didn't have the right, of course, to fire Latsky, but technically not illegal. What is likely illegal is the information that Wilkerson handed over showing that Donald Trump and many other people at Truth Social, not Wilkerson, not Latsky, were all openly discussing the potential merger with Digital World Acquisition, the SPAC company, which was, by the way, illegal. There was not supposed to be any communication between Digital World and Donald Trump's Trump Media and Technology Group. None. That couldn't exist. Because the way that these SPAC companies operate is they get everybody to dump their money into the pool. Once all the money is in, then they come up with an acquisition target. If the materials that Wilkerson has turned over to the federal authorities are accurate, which we have no reason to believe that they're not, because they're the actual documents, then what they've done is implicate Donald Trump, Truth Social, and everybody else involved in a massive fraud scandal, which, of course, we know is what the SEC is investigating. So Wilkerson likely handed over the smoking gun. And here's the fun part. Donald Trump is directly involved. They do have messages showing that Donald Trump wants to talk about the SPAC deal. Like, that is literally a message, so we know he was talking about it. He is directly implicated with this new information. But is anything going to happen, right? I think that's the big question everybody has, not just with this investigation, but with pretty much every other investigation into Donald Trump. Like, okay, cool. We now have like firm, solid evidence of criminal activity. So wonderful. What are you going to do about it? And the answer so far is we don't know, right? The story's only a couple days old. We do have, of course, retaliation against a whistleblower. firing a guy because he wouldn't literally give Melania Trump millions of dollars. And of course, all of the really damning evidence that the folks at Truth Social were in fact in contact with Digital World Acquisition, which would be 100% illegal. In fact, both Wilkerson and Latsky were so concerned when this was even brought up that they thought the guy who brought it up to them was actually wearing a wire trying to get them to talk about it and admit to all this wrongdoing. So the feds have this information. Now let's see what they do with it. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel? We also encourage you to like, comment, and share, but again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.